Right. Thank you, everyone. It's nice to see familiar faces, and for everyone that is taking time to join us tonight. We hope we will have an interesting conversation tonight about midlife crisis. Just a bit of a preamble to this. One of the well-known psychologists, psychiatrists that is written about this, Carl Jung, described it as when men start experiencing balding, getting gray, wrinkles here and there, reduced endurance, as in terms of physical strength and stuff, some body changes, uh, changes including our vision. Sometimes our sexual drive is a bit low, and some men start feeling being dramatically too young to be old when they look at it themselves. And also, one of the main characteristics was also spoken about is when men start assuming that midlife is about an eventful period in their life, which then makes them to start behaving in some negative ways and potentially can cause some stress to themselves. This might kind of let you associate with what midlife crisis is. Can I just check? Is everyone seeing the slide and can hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
we're hearing you and we're seeing
yeah,
the
yeah, we can
slide.
hear you, sir.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So you could see in this picture, I mean, the young lad to the left, which will be, I don't know which side it is on your own screen, but when you start looking and appearing like the other gentleman to my on the right, you might be thinking that yes, uh, this is a sign of a midlife crisis. And how do we define a midlife crisis? I mean, several definitions I will go through that has been written by several psychologists. Uh, it's been spoken as being a transition of identity and self-confidence that can occur in middle age. This is when people start identifying, start relating to how they are, and in terms of how they feel, in terms of their uh, confidence and ability. Uh, this was kind of, like I said, it's a psychological phenomenon that's been kind of spoken about by different people associated with growing age, and people start realizing that, oh, I'm actually growing age, old. They start seeing gray hairs and changes in their color, changes in their skin, and they start thinking, oh, I'm getting closer to the end. They start thinking about inevitability of death and possible lack of accomplishment in their life. They may have thought, well, whilst they were in secondary school or in early teenage years, oh, I'm going to build build skyscraper. I'm going to, get the best car and get the best job. And by the time they are in this midlife crisis, they start feeling that they haven't accomplished all these things. And this may produce a very intense feelings of low mood, being remorseful, oh, I should have done this. Why didn't I do that? And it can create a lot of high level of anxiety as well. And so many kind of changes can occur around this period in our lives. I'm sure many people will be familiar with Methuselah, who lived for us 75. So it's also a thought whether or not he was also uh, thinking and sat down in his chair and thinking, oh, have I done half of all the things I planned to do in my youth? It could also be likened to whether or not he was experiencing a midlife crisis at that point. One renowned psychologist, Oliver Robinson, did some research on individuals that were having midlife crisis and felt that it was a kind of a period when people have a deep sense of remorse, just like I said, um, for goals that have not been accomplished, and they they have, beginning to experience a fear of humiliation amongst more successful colleagues. I mean, people, you start seeing your peers, either they've become professor, some is now married, they have children that are successful, or some is driving a kind of a luxurious car and you are driving something else. Some are living in big estate or mansions or all sort of things, and you think, oh, I'm just living in one room still. I mean, people are earning more and I'm earning less, but we are both, friends in our youth, and we all did the same thing. Uh, yes, like I said, longing to achieve a feeling of youthfulness when you start seeing that you can't do all the things that you used to do when you were much younger, running around, playing football, jumping, and can do so many things. You see that all those youthfulness and strength and endurance is all been lost. Uh, when you start feeling that you need to spend more time alone or with certain pairs, like, like I said, feeling of being confused, resentment, and anger, all sort of things that has happened or should have happened in our lives. It could be a marital life, work life, health life, economy, or social status. We start making kind of an assessment of our lives at this point, and we start saying, "Oh, maybe I should have not done this. Oh, I shouldn't have done that work. Maybe I should have been an engineer as opposed to uh, a farmer, or I should have been, and a banker, which will earn me more as opposed to being an engineer." I mean, people start counting where did they've been and what they've done and what they should have done. Another psychologist, I mean, Carlo Russo also said, I mean, says it's a period when you are on, start experiencing an unease about major life events in your life, uh, which, l- like I said, like the previous psychologist too as well, a feeling of not being satisfied with your career, your marriage, your health, and at the same time, you may also feel that time for taking new direction is running out because you think, oh, I've wasted, you know, significant life time in my life. Would I be able to accomplish this now? And things that I've kind of not done as much as I would have wished. Also, like I said, a significant change in our appearance and stamina. The strength that we used to have, the useful strength is all gone. And some, luckily, may have become a grandparents of in some ways, and they may have lost friends and lost their parents. So all these significant changes now make you to be conscious that, oh, I'm drawing closer to this significant age group, and you start spending more time thinking about them. Another renowned psychologist, Lynn Mongolis, also, describes it as as a period uh, in our life. A sure sign that you may be experiencing it is you're feeling trapped and very tempted to act out in a way that will blow up your life. That is when people start thinking, oh, what I didn't do in 20, 30, 40 years, oh, I'm going to try and see if I can do them now. I want to belong. I want to be known. I want to be, famous. I want to change my life around. I want to make it better. But sometimes it may not actually happen that way. So people may tend to be drinking more, feeling that their life no longer fits fit for purpose. And all these things are things that could happen and which can happen to men, although um, to women as well. I just want us to take few seconds to look at this slide and could see whether we've been found in this situation ourselves. When you kind of sat down looking at and you hold your head and start saying, "Oh, what? How?" Or where your personality is suddenly change about how you start, you know, relating to your loved ones or spending long time in bed and just sleeping and you start weighing yourself, oh, it seems I've lost weight or everything is changed in terms of my look. This is not me. I can't be having this gray hair. Where did all this one comes from? Or you just become extravagant and just start doing all the things that you think you ought to have done. You just impossibly, you know, buying new cars or trying to take a new younger bride or something, or drinking heavily, like I said. These are kind of a compensatory mechanism that can happen at this age, trying to fill the gap of what you ought to have done or should have done or could have done. But whether or not it's a good idea or not, we'll probably get to know. So, what are some of these the trigger that has been uh, known to cause this sort of crisis? I mean, two major factors. I mean, in terms of where that has been, well spoken about. I mean, people feel dissatisfied, with their career and feeling it's too late to change. Some maybe loss of job, maybe unfulfillment of life dreams, which I've been talking about, unhappiness in personal relationship, which I talk about marriage, work, money and relationship and stuff. Changes in our body when you start, you know, hair loss, men becoming bald and their weight begin to kind of drop and the muscle mass, you start looking at your muscle mass start wasting and shrinking away and you start seeing folds and wrinkles on your face. So this can trigger this crisis. Like I said, like a kind of a few signs, of course. It can, uh, like I said, drop in life satisfaction, increase sadness. Why? Just like I've shown in those pictures in in earlier slides, uh, increase in mood changes, spontaneous decision making, a focus on change. Oh, I need to buy a new car now. I haven't done. Oh, I haven't bought a brand new car in my life. All I've bought is second-hand cars. Or I need to make sure even if you can't afford it, you make this impulsive decision at this kind of critical midlife stage. And some men might become quite frustrated and irritable, which can, either be due to so many things, like I said, work, family life, and stuff. And they may even become withdrawn and kind of sleeping more or spending longer time in bed and then uh, uh, as a form of signs of what can happen. I mean, in some men also, we may develop some features of actually being depressed. They may actually have a low mood, lack of concentration, attention, feeling guilt feelings, no motivation, and which may also includes, loss of self-drive, as in your, the desire to have pleasure and to actually have the the sexual act itself. Of course, erectile dysfunction, as in, our ability to actually get things standing. And, I mean, like I said, in terms of where this commonly occur, usually between the age of 40 to 50. Some studies have said some 40 to 60 and they're about. I hope everyone can still hear me though.
Yes.
Yes, we're hearing you
Yes,
loud and clear.
Yes,
thank you.
loud and clear.
Thank you. And other symptoms that are also common in this age, of course, I've talked about mood swing when our wives start noticing this man that is not very, that has always been nice and pleasant and start becoming quite irritable and quite swinging in mood, just like we had from last month's talk on menopause. It can also um, um, happen in men at this kind of critical midlife stage. And part of the irritability that you see is all due to the fact that a feeling of regret, a feeling of wasted period in their lives, for one reason or the other. Of course, in terms of physical, appearance and ability, we spoke about that. I mean, very commonly, this is one that most men will probably identify with in terms of fat redistribution. When you start seeing large belly, or you start seeing what we will call man's boobs, you start say, "Oh, where is this coming from? Why is all my macho muscles, all the muscles are built? Where is it all gone?" Right. Of course, we spoke about lack of energy, and as I also spoke about sleep and being tired excessively. I suppose the other important one to mention here is the poor concentration and short-term memory. It's just all due to the preoccupation about all these things. It then makes you to be less attentive to other significant things happening around you. So, and if you are not going to take them in, so you are less likely going to remember them. So it's also kind of significant features that one should also note in this uh, stage in our lives. Right. I know this kind of came up last month in terms of, is there anything like a male menopause? Just to kind of clarify that, well, uh, there is actually nothing like a male menopause. It's a kind of, I mean, some people have referred to it as an andropause. It's an unhelpful term that has been coined by the media, which can also be quite misleading because it suggests that it's probably related to hormonal changes as in the women that we spoke about last week, like as if there's a sudden drop in the testosterone in men as opposed to estrogen or any other hormones in the female counterpart. So this is not true. It's a completely different changes that are happen unrelated to a drop in the hormone. There's a different, illness disorder that relates to testosterone deficiency or kind of a low uh, stage in men. But it is not related to what we generally refer to as male menopause, and there's no real terminology as that. All right. Of course, I've said that it does occur around about this age. Right. So, and this slide is just to kind of compare from last month as what we call a menopause and comparing it to what we kind of coined as an andropause. You could see on my left, yes, we spoke about all these features last month, when our wives are going through menopause, they can become quite forgetful, hot flushes, palpitation, irregular breathing, vaginal dryness, and all sort of things. The one in the middle is the one that is shown to be quite common to both sex at this period in their lives. Like I said, I've kind of mentioned quite a number of this: mood changes, mood swings, insomnia, weight gain, bone mass loss, and all that. But on the extreme right, you could see there are other things that are more commoner in men when they are going through midlife crisis, as I've been talking about: low energy, muscle loss, mild to moderate erectile dysfunction when men start uh, going over the counter to get Viagra and stuff and all sort of things that would enhance their performance. So this is just, I just brought this slide in just to kind of compare, just to kind of show graphically um, some some changes that we might be able to relate to in terms of menopause and what we kind of refer to as an andropause. Other things that we need to actually be be conscious about in terms of what are other things that could be happening in people's life that can also mimic or kind of present in such a way that may also look as if someone is having a midlife crisis. Our personality, our personal and lifestyle issues can also appear to make people think that they are going through lifestyle crisis. When people are going through psychological problems, which is where this entity that we're talking about is well spoken uh, about by psychologists. Uh, where people are quite stressed and they have quite a lot of stressful circumstance or situation in their life, they are actually depressed or having symptoms of an acute depression or kind of a depressive disorder or anxiety. All these three major illnesses can cause erectile problem, can cause low self-drive, and can also, present as kind of a low mood. So it's just been able to be mindful that when you have this thing, does not necessarily that you are experiencing a midlife crisis. It could be just the psychological problems that one is going through. Similarly, I mean, psychological problems also can be triggered by what I've said earlier on. People can have work uh, crisis or relationship issue or money problem or worry about aging parents at any time in their life. It doesn't necessarily have to be 40 or 50 or 60, but it can uh, uh, happen as well. Of course, as many people will know in this, you know, era of quite a lot of issues around inflation and cost of living crisis and stuff. There's so much anxiety uh, accompanying this, and which is people are losing their jobs, and can that can also lead to people actually getting depressed. It's just to be aware that there are other psychological situations and personal and lifestyle changes or issues that can present in such a way that people might think they are going through life crisis. Just to kind of highlight again, these are kind of other few causes of why people, our men can present as if they look as if they're going through what I've kind of coined as male menopause. I mean, when people are having uh, quite disruptive sleep, they're not eating well, they're not exercising as they used to be, they're just kind of sitting around and just crossing their legs and probably drinking too much now and smoking too much. And they may have lost um, confidence in themselves, like I've kind of showed in few slices earlier on. In terms of how do we cope with midlife crisis, unfortunately, or fortunately, because it's not a disease entity, like I said, there's no real medication for it. However, when we have other things that sort of can present similarly like it, If you have a genuine anxiety disorder or you have a depressive disorder, in such cases, we need to see our uh, our GP, or our doctors will signpost us to either some psychological treatment initially, then whether or not we will need to go on medication to improve that. But aside that, if it happens to be a kind of a genuine midlife crisis, it's kind of advisable that people kind of recognize their feelings. And like most people say, problem shared is problem solved. Share your feelings with someone you trust, whether it's your family, your friends, your pastor, is what is sort of help. Normalizing and refrain from feelings for yourself. Okay. Gather a team of people that are quite very helpful, resourceful, that are great like minds, that people have to recognize that aging is a kind of a natural changes that we all have to go to, and not necessarily that why, when, and how come, I've got gray hair, how come I've become bored. Uh, avoid ne negative coping pattern. When you see that, oh, you suddenly realize, oh, others have become granddad and you haven't been, and you suddenly realize that, oh, I've not bought a new car and I'm closer to 50 now. You start doing things, you start um, acting recklessly in such a way that as if you want to blow your life away. Um, Reestablish your purpose. Try and, reestablish your identity, who you've loved to be, and obviously keep up with your physical health. It does not mean that because there's a drop in your performance or your kind of ability does not necessarily mean you can't look after yourself, look after your health, then appreciate the changes. Getting old or having features that shows that you are an older person does not necessarily mean, or it's not an illness. It's a sign of maturity. It's a it's a sign that you have grown also. You become responsible, you know. So, and then accepting that it's a journey, it's not a disease entity. Yeah, like I said, other physical signs, I mean, like I kind of mentioned earlier on, of course, weight gain, wrinkle, sagging skin, hair loss, and all that. All those can be helped with regular exercise, maintaining a good nutrition, which we've spoke about severally on different topics, uh, which will help to kind of sustain our physical and mental health over these years. I mean, people have also talked about significant changes that we made in our life may prevent one from having a midlife crisis. I mean, changing jobs before midlife can also, help us to have a good sense of, yes, I've made my mark, and also a greater sense of motivation can be derived from stagnation as a desire to help generation. That is one of the psychologists that kind of deduced that in one of our research as well. In conclusion, navigating life issues, according to Dr. Lin, is either we do it in such a way that it leads to a growth, or it may result in a destruction. So it's quite important for men to actually be aware of how they deal with this period in their lives. If you approach it and you deal with it sensibly, reasonably, understandably, it would actually lead to a growth. Uh, in which case you look for the cause or the causes of your unhappiness and may make and then make thoughtful decision to address them, as opposed to making a destructive decision by making an impulsive decisions. For example, buying a car that you cannot afford, going to marry a younger person when you cannot afford to cope with everything that comes with it, or start, you know, doing some extravagant lifestyle choices that you cannot keep up with. Right. And we should remember that our feelings aren't a command. It could also be a pointer to a problems that need solving, which can also fade away, even if we don't do anything at all, or may even change over time. It's just about remembering that feelings are not a command at all. It could be that, just like I said, a growth that will kind of point to what we need to do, then we just kind of address it, and it will kind of even be beneficial at this point in our life. Be thankful for good things. Yeah. Takes time to be grateful for the part of your life that makes you happy. It's not just about looking at the mirror, the things you haven't bought, the things you haven't even achieved, the changes in, but look at what has worked well. What has what what can you count as your blessings? What has been really an achievement, and how would you feel in terms of taking a stock, and how would you feel if you then take any actions that may cause you to lose all these fantastic things that you have achieved in the past? So that will kind of make us to rethink that, oh, I shouldn't do any stupid thing to blow all this away. Even though I may not have achieved all this much that I thought I would, I can still count on this. I don't want to jeopardize that. Like I said, talk things over before making a decision. Discuss with someone. I've said that earlier on, friends, family, professionals, where possible. Ask whether your wishes are realistic. Make such your new goals are practicable and within your grasp, not just over ambitious targets and things that are not realistic. And we kind of then push ourselves really hard to then making choices and that are detrimental to our lives. I suppose that is all I'm going to talk about in terms of midlife crisis. I wonder if people want to ask some questions at this stage.
So thank you so much, Dr. Abiola. Very interesting topic. And you mentioned that a midlife crisis is a transition of identity and self-confidence that can occur in a middle-aged individual. You went on to give us some what trigger middle-aged crisis, and you spoke about loss of job, unfulfilled life dream, unhappiness in a personal relationship, changes in the body that signal aging, such as ear loss and weight gain. Is there any questions for Dr. Abiola? Thank you. You can drop them in the chat, and or you can just raise your hand and we will get to you. Reverend Dolly, you can unmute. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Olga. Good evening, everyone. And sorry, I came a little bit late. I was in Bible study 7 to 8, so I ran a little bit over before I could switch systems. It's thank you so much, Dr. Abiola, for this kind of succinct presentation. And it cuts across a lot of things. And I think it's not only for men, like you said. I know we're talking about men, but I think we women can see so much to learn from in this. My question will be round. I'm going to mention one of a few things that you've said, and this is bringing to mind life scenarios that I know about, or maybe I've come about in life. And maybe those days you think you don't really have answers to it, but now you're kind of wondering, okay, it looks like this is the issue. So which is usually you're talking about personal and lifestyle issues. And as you were speaking, I was really trying to connect with it about things that go on, especially when we're losing grip of things. We're thinking we're getting old, lack of accomplishments, all the things, and the frustration and irritability with work and family, and things are not the way we expected. And sometimes this impacts on our friends and our family, because they are like our answer to our failures. And then we take things, we take actions, or we're angry at them, or we are looking at paces that things ought to be going this way, is not going this way. So how do you, my question is, someone in such situation, because obviously anybody that is going through it wouldn't know they are going through it. Do you understand? It's like if they come to a doctor, that you'll be able to say, oh, this is depression. And coincidentally, in the Bible study, we're talking about anxiety. This just fits in. Today's topic today was anxiety. So it keeps just like, so how would a family member, because it will be difficult to say to somebody, maybe they're your friend or your sister or your spouse or whatever, and then they're 50s or their 60s or 70s, and you realize, okay, it looks like this, obviously we are not authorized to diagnose, but from everything you've said, and you're trying to picture, oh, this is my friend, this is my sister, this is my uncle, this is my brother, and they will not be able to say, you can't even mention this to say, I think you're going through like midlife crisis. That's why you're irritated. That's why, because sometimes we lose grip and like nothing satisfies us, or we want more and more and more, and then we take it out on our friends and our family, and we think, okay, everything they are doing doesn't really make sense. So how would you approach such? I know that's not a question much for you as a
Yeah,
doctor, but how do we handle that? And for the sake of men that are here, because African men generally, we don't go to doctors and we don't own up that we have problem. We will
yeah,
rather take it up on friends and family. We don't own up from these things. So how do you think, as a medical doctor or a
yeah.
clinician, to address people that every one of us here, as much as we're over 50, we find ourselves in these things, because mood swings is somebody being happy now, you are okay, and the next 10 minutes the person just go from 0 to 100, and you're like, so there's definitely an issue that that person doesn't know, and this is midlife crisis. So I just wanted you to chip in more on that, and for everyone listening, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Reverend Dolly. I mean, that is why I brought back this particular slide. It kind of summarizes everything. You can see right at the top there, it's your fault. This man started getting quite irritable, and at the other time is spending long hours in bed. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, is still there. I mean, it is a tricky one in terms of, I didn't mention in terms of other studies where they also found out that people from Japan and India, they have less midlife crisis. So they were also thinking that there might be some cultural construct to midlife crisis. So it may not be uncommon amongst us Black Africans and Afro-Caribbeans, because we come from a background with a lot of stresses and pressures and stuff, a lot of worries. We have too much baggage around ourselves. We don't think about just our immediate family only. We think about extended families and that sort of things. We have a lot of issues around things that are just basic that we wouldn't have to worry about, road security and and sicknesses and death and all sort of things. So yes, these are kind of very important life stresses that can create a lot of anxiety and stuff. I suppose it's just being aware of all these things and just kind of know how to kind of manage this within ourselves, identify, understand that yes, these are life changes or stresses that everyone goes through. And if you think your coping mechanism is not adequate to kind of manage those situations, if you need to seek help, if you need to talk it through, it's one very good start before you start seeing professionals. I know men will sometimes have our ego and something is not, yes, I'm all right. Why are you thinking I'm 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 what? I mean, that might be one good area where talking might be kind of helpful. Same thing as we talk about the women last week about menopause, they may have wins most week. It's about us as the men understanding that yes, it's not that my wife is just suddenly become this. It's just about us being aware. There's a very thin line. I mean, in terms of whether or not it's anxiety, is depression, is but when you start having other major symptoms associated with that, then it might be worth seeking medical advice or opinion at that stage. I hope that helps.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Reverend Dolly. Here's a question in the chat, and it says, first someone says, thank you, Dr. Abiola. Does all men have a midlife crisis, please? Also, how can you avoid a midlife crisis? Thank you. And that's from Shola.
Yeah,
So if you want to unmute and ask something or
yeah.
continue with the conversation.
I mean, not all. Well, it's like I said, it's not a disease entity. It's a kind of a psychological description. I mean, it's well reported amongst the psychologists as a kind of a change that may also be brought on by psychological changes in our lives and all that. But in terms of whether it's a disease entity that we classify under our uh, um, disease classification system, it's probably not. So it's not what necessarily that we all can go through or are going through or may go through. It depends on our coping strategy and mechanisms and how we able to understand what we are going through, and we're able to kind of relate because we have other coping mechanisms because we are from either a very moral upstanding kind of a society, we have a kind of a religious society or groups that a lot of emphasis is about contentment, self-awareness. You know about, yes, there's nothing like comparing yourself to something else, to someone else, so that, yeah. But like I said, this may be conscious or unconscious feelings that anyone may have, but it's just about trying to understand whether it's going overboard or not. And if you start impacting on your day-to-day functioning and day-to-day life, then it might be worth, looking at all those coping strategies that I've talked about. If you feel, I mean, it's kind of normal when you see ladies or women going towards the menopause or much older because of the hormonal changes. Part of what they experience is their bone mass begin to shrink. Their bone mass makes their bone density to shrink. So if you kind of notice whether a, a lady that was kind of uh, at a height of say 6 foot will now kind of drop to like 5 foot, so they will look smaller in terms of their height and all that. So these are kind of bone, changes. So eh, all these things do happen. It's just about how we acknowledge and how we deal with it. Is that right, Shola?
Thank you, doctor. Yeah, yeah. The main important is to acknowledge
Yeah,
the
is to acknowledge
yeah,
those
and to be able
changes.
to deal with it.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you.
yeah.
I've got a question, Olga.
Go ahead.
Yeah, why not try to take you back, Doctor?
Yes.
I know that people's challenges differ.
Yeah.
The challenges of a 60-year-old Mr. A is likely to be different from that of Mr. B. So, why, from a professional point of view, why do you think that the kind of midlife crisis they suffer or they experience differ from one another? I'm talking from a practical point of view. Now, you have taken us through all the theoretical. So
Yeah.
why is it that what is Mr. A doing that at 60 is still sound, is still looking good with a sound mind, whereas the other one at 60 is different?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, what we've all been through and experienced are quite different. There is what we will call life experiences, life trauma, our genetic makeup, our environmental factors, social factors. We all have physical health differently. So who we grow with, some may grow up in say a polygamous house, and other person might grow up in a different environment. One might be a Muslim, or one might not even be a traditionalist and all that. So we may have gone through different experiences in life, as opposed to people that probably live in affluent areas. If you are son of a, say, an ambassador or a senator or a governor, all your friends and people you relate to or where you've been to are, so if you have a little crisis in your life, it might be kind of significantly too big for you to handle, as opposed to someone else who is have kind of experienced life differently. They've developed several coping mechanisms. They've been taught all this to appreciate that life is not necessarily have to be this. Lives can, people have been taught that yes, um, competition is not about winning always. It's about participating and being there, but you are not made to know. Yeah, you must have to win. You must be first. You must be. Then, if you can't achieve that, then you are more likely to start relating to, yes, oh, I'm a failure. So there are so many factors why, obviously, why A would be different to B. So that which we, in all honesty, may not have control over all of them.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you so much. We're running out of time, but there's one question again. How long does a midlife crisis last in a man?
Yeah, I would. It's about 3 to 10 years. They said in men, and much. Let me try and bring this slide back. Come on. Okay. Am I going back? Yep. It kind of lasts about 3 to 10 years, like I said, in men, and between 2 to 5 years in women.
Thank
Is that
you.
yep?
I think I missed that. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. Any other question?
Um, let's have a look. Question. Let me see. Thank you. It is spiritual intervention and acceptable. Oh, somebody was asking, Is spiritual intervention an acceptable approach in midlife crisis? If yes, how?
I mean that well, I wouldn't want to draw Reverend Tony and Reverend Dolly into this, but 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 certainly being a Christian myself, I can wholeheartedly put my hands on my chest and tell you that spiritual intervention, not in the other sense of it. I don't know about all whether holy water or whatever. I don't know about that. But my understanding of spiritual intervention to me would be spiritual counseling, prayer. There are so many groups in the church that have support groups.
Yeah.
Uh, Attending kind of talks like this, you get inspiration, you get information, you get, yeah, good on that understanding of why things happen. And I mean, Christians are well known for their moral values, moral upstanding, moral, so the issue about greed and all sort of things, and comparing yourself with others who would not be there. You will value yourself, as yeah. I mean, there's so many songs in our Christian faith that's that that kind of relates to that. I'm a special person. I'm a special, yeah.
I'm,
So
I'm glad to be drawn into this, Doctor. Yeah, because this is what I do from time to time. But I will give
yeah,
a specific example where spiritual intervention helps.
yeah,
I have worked with a person who was very low in mood, not talking to anyone for days, not talking to the doctor, the nurses, or anybody, even the family. So I was invited to talk to this person. And after all said and done, I just asked, what's her best song? What song does she like most? And they mentioned it. And I said, okay, can someone lead us? As we were singing, it's unbelievable. She opened her eyes and she joined us in singing. So that's kind of spiritual intervention that helps when people are low in spirit or they're in bad mood, and especially when they are towards the end of life. They begin to ask themselves about the meaning of their life, which relates to what you have said earlier. They think they have done well, they think they didn't do well, what they should have done, where they shouldn't have done, and how and why they found themselves where they were. But like you said earlier, being thankful for the
yeah,
good things that they have done and closing their
sure.
eyes for those that they couldn't do or they couldn't achieve is quite helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That's very helpful contribution.
Really appreciate Dr. Abiola for your research and for the delivery of this talk. And I think it's very, very, every one of us, as even we that we are not men. But one of the things I'll say to rounding up is let's all avoid anxiety, let's grasp and let's settle to life. Whatever thing and age we have to understand that we are aging, whether we like it, from what Dr. Abiola just said. So there's no fear or panic. And like Reverend Tony said as well, the spiritual aspect of it, let us seek God to help us if we feel we are losing grip. But all these things are part of age. We should settle very well to understand that we're aging. There could be crisis. Seek for help. Look to people. Don't take it out unnecessarily on others or bent our others. And if we don't understand it, let's all know that we're aging, and whatever we're unable to achieve is part of life. You can't achieve everything in life. Whatever comes is ours. What doesn't come our way is not our ways. So I just feel, and if it gets deep, let's seek to the doctor. So thank you, everyone. We appreciate you. I learned so much, and I'm trying to, it's good for us to try to achieve
Me
what we
too.
can, where we have strength. And if we are unable to achieve it, let's just enjoy and do life the way God wants us to do it. So until next month again, that you come our way, as you know that this is Come Let Us Community Project, BME Health Talk every month. We don't know what we're going to talk about next month, but definitely the team, Reverend Tony, Olga, and Dr. Abiola, they're going to look into another topic. And if you have anything that you think is of interest, you want us to talk about, let us know. We appreciate you for your time. The video is going to be on the Come Let Us Community Project website or Instagram page if you want to share the video to people. So we appreciate you for your time. Thank you so much. And I just want to thank the team again, Dr. Abiola, Olga, and Reverend Tony, especially being the coordinator. They do a lot of work in the background to make sure this is coming to us and it's coming to us free. And I just pray that God will continue to increase them and nourish all of us in Jesus' name. Thank you.